Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 update 1.34. In this video I'm going to be taking you through a little short and sweet guide to all of the events featured in this update, which there are 5 of. We have a continuation of the Super Formulas. We have 2 new events for them, one being at Road Atlanta, which is a rather straightforward event, and to be honest is a pretty easy and cheap strategy to get the win in that one. And then we also have probably the highlight event of the bunch, which is Autopolis, which is supposed to be dynamic weather. However, I'll kind of explain what happened to me when I get to that event. We also have a continuation, finally, of the GTR Cup, an event that was been around since launch, I believe, and that's kind of to make use of the Nismo R32 before we head over to High Speed Ring for an American Clubman Cup, I believe, which features kind of for the Maverick and all the custom American cars and such. And then we'll head over to the final one, which is the Clubman Cup, where we will feature the Alfa Romeo. So let's get into it and go for event number 1. This is at Road Atlanta. This is with the Super Formulas, so a continuation of the events that happened that came along with last update. And in all honesty, the easiest strategy for this one is hard tyres and fuel mix free. Now, as you can see, I've got it at fuel mix 1, but eventually I will turn that down to fuel mix 3 at the end of lap 1 because it doesn't give you quite enough fuel to get to the end. However, you can still complete this entire race with a no-stop strategy. We began to make our first moves actually on lap 6, so we're quite a way into the event before we even start making any kind of ground on the AI. A lot of them running mainly medium and soft tyres, I believe. They will all pit on this event, so you won't need to worry if you're kind of hanging around at the back for a bit on the hard tyres. Eventually you will end up making up your positions later on in the race. So as you can see, we're going to perform some more moves. The AI extremely slow into turn 1, so you can really take advantage of that, and as long as you keep the car on the road, you should be all good. Now, as you're going to see, we're again going to make a bunch of moves at turn 1, mainly because of just how ridiculously slow the AI is. They will then kind of battle back on the downhill bit, but they will have to start pitting between lap 10 and lap 15. So anywhere from there, expect them to begin to dive into the pits, and you're going to begin to see that here as we go on to lap 12. That some of the soft runners will now pit, and then get some fuel as well, and then kind of the medium runners and some of the hard runners will begin to pit from lap 13 to lap 15. I was a little bit worried about the gap to P1. As you can see, it's currently at 6 seconds, but we are finally going to get that all the way down by the end of lap 14 before finally taking the lead when he does pit. So all the AI will pit in this one. It is a little bit different for Autopolis, but to be honest, this is a fairly straightforward event. So fuel mix free, hard tyres, and you should be good for the win. As you can see, we're going to finish this one up with around about 0.1 laps of fuel remaining and about half tyre life. So fairly straightforward. First place, super simple and super easy. As long as you are doing it correctly, you shouldn't really have any struggles, and this is running on normal difficulty. On easy, it's probably even easier. So overall, we did this in around about 17 minutes with a 20-second gap to second place. Again, pitting in late on the lap 14 going on to lap 15 did allow us to pretty much just run away from the AI with a fastest lap of 1.5 on lap 10. So there you go, that is that one done. A bit of a reduced payout, more in line with some of the other events. 160,000 credits without clean race bonus. It will be plus 50% for clean race bonus, but it's rather quite difficult to get that. So let's move on to probably the, I guess, highlight event of the bunch. This is Autopolis. Again, this one's going to be 15 laps, Super Formulas, so again another continuation of that. Now this one is all about weather, so keep an eye on that radar. You do have enough fuel to go all the way to the end, so don't worry about fuel. I've begun on the mediums just in case there is rain around about the midpoint, and you know I should be safe to around about lap 10 realistically on these tyres. But as you're going to see, the rain was a kind of a little bit glitchy how it happened. So watch the radar here. You're going to see the rain will just magically appear. Well, the rain coverage, should I say, will just come out of nowhere, not even with an edit. It just kind of blinks on. Now I'm assuming at this point it should begin to either, you know, look like it's going to rain and then kind of move into rain, but it just never actually happened for me. So the dynamic weather may kind of differ for, you know, each player. So just be prepared that there could be rain, or if you're like me and you probably get quite lucky, you won't actually have a single drop of rain for the entire race. So, you know, I would prepare for the worst. As you can see, we did spin it around on probably one of the most awkward corners. I never seem to get that one right. But yeah, just be sure to kind of prepare for rain. Even if you don't get it, you should quite easily take the win. There is only one single AI that didn't pit in this entire race on my run through. So on to lap 4, and as you can see, we're quite easily working our way up through the grid. Even with the spin, we are able to get that time down. We've also got the fastest lap currently. A lot of the AIs are just kind of extremely slow and on the harder tyre usually, I believe. Most of them that are kind of going round and that did pit kind of came off of the hard tyre or the medium. I didn't really see any cars running the soft. I know for sure that first place does run the hard tyre. So as you can see, we did kind of get some rain, but it just kind of faded and fizzled away. Again, I don't know if it's kind of a situation like we had with one of the previous updates at Fuji, where the rain was supposed to come and then just kind of bugged out for a lot of people. As you can see, the AI begin to make their pit stops, so the medium runners coming in around about lap 8 to lap 10, and then you'll have the hard runners a little bit later on. So we're still making our way through. We do get ourselves into first place at the beginning of lap 11. However, as you're going to notice, our medium tyres are completely shot at this point and far past the safe point. So we are going to have to kind of, you know, take it on the chin really and pit in. Obviously the rain's not happening at this point, it's fully cleared out. We're going to put a set of softs on again because it does give you enough fuel to go for the entire race. You won't need to fuel, so just don't bother. In all honesty, I just put a splash in just to ensure, but again, I had plenty of fuel come the end of the event, so I didn't really have to even do that. So maybe a second or so wasted there. And then we are going to get underway and begin chasing down the AI. We came out in P12, but to be quite honest, on the fresh softs, whilst everyone else is either on harder compounds or more worn tyres, yeah, you're going to make short work of these. As you can see, we're beginning our run up the field already. So even if you do come out towards the rear end of the grid and you're quite late on, in all honesty, don't worry too much. It probably just means that the AI are either still yet to pit, or they're going to be pretty much just coasting and cruising around the track at this point. As you can see, we're getting on to lap 15. We've got an 8-second gap to first place as some of the other cars begin to pit. Those are some of the hard running cars, so they will eventually have to pit even if they are running on the hards. But like I said, one of them did not pit, and that is going to be P1 here, who we did finally get on the 15th lap. So again, we could take the pit stop. We went from medium to soft, and although we did have to take a pit and they didn't, they're pretty much just going to be cruising around, and we are going to eventually make that move on the final lap and pretty much just disappear into the distance. So if you don't get rain, this is probably one of the better strategies, because you know you've prepared ready for rain just in case. But if you do get rain, again, you should be pretty fine because the AI will have to pit as well. So we're going to finish that event up. It's probably the most kind of dynamic and difficult one of the bunch, but as long as you kind of, you know, are consistent with your lap times and such, you shouldn't realistically struggle to take the win here. So first place for us, we completed this one in 23 minutes just about. We had a 3-second gap to the second place car in the end. As you can see, we just took a ton of time out of him at the end. Although he didn't pit, those hard tyres were just completely shot, which just made him a sitting duck. We took the fastest lap on lap 14, which was a 1:27.9. So payout for this one is just going to be a little bit more. So you're going to get 200,000 without the clean race bonus. Again, expect 50% for the clean race bonus, which will be 300,000 credits. But I do find they're rather quite difficult to get for these Super Formula events, just because of how close the cars are. More than likely, the AI will just tap you, or you'll tap the AI at some point. So let's move on to the continuation of the Nissan GTR Cup. It's going to be at Blue Moon Speedway on the infield A reverse. We're going to use the new R32 GTR Nismo. We've got a few upgrades. Now the PP limit on this is actually 630, but you are required to run a sports compound of tyres. So I put the softest compound on, the sports soft. Put enough upgrades on to just kind of get me under 630, which realistically should give you a ton of performance parts to play with. And to be quite honest, it's a fairly straightforward event. There's no real pit stopping, there's no tyre wear or anything like that. It's just a typical sprint race for 5 laps. And to be honest, it's not a very long one either. So you should make short work of the AI. I believe most of the AI are just running pretty standard cars, apart from a few I did notice had a few custom parts on, so I'm unsure if they're kind of running upgrades or not. But as you can see, by the time we're on lap 2, we're already up to P5, about to take P4, so yeah, you really shouldn't struggle here. As you can see, we're just getting it a little bit sideways, not going to make the move there because it's a little bit risky and we could end up spinning around, but we are basically going to just, you know, pull on him and get that one done. Even though we did overshoot the right-hander here, we did have the move cleared and done, and that just leaves 3 more cars up front. We made short work of one, and then we got past the GTR on the exit to the main straight. Obviously this is a reverse grid, so we're then going to go up the straight, chase down the Nismo. So there is another R32 GTR Nismo racing. Funnily enough, it's in first place. What a shock. But yeah, by the time we got to lap 3, we're pretty much in the lead, and again, we're just going to run away with it from here. You realistically shouldn't have any troubles from this point. If you do make a mistake, you probably will still have a bit of leeway in terms of, you know, getting yourself back up that grid. So again, a super simple event. We're eventually going to round the final corner. We do have a fastest lap of a 1:16 so far, but we are going to improve on that and get into the 1:15s as we go across the line. So there you go. First place. You can make use of the R32 GTR Nismo if you want to. Obviously, it will need to be a GTR badged car, performing to 630 pp or under, and running a sports compound of tyres. So 1:15.839 was our fastest lap on this one, with a gap of around about 19 seconds. So again, easy event. Now this one's a little bit different because I didn't really expect any weather, but you are going to be doing the high speed ring reverse for this event. Now this is for American cars. I believe it's recommended around about 700 pp. So what I did, obviously seeing a bit of rain on the intro screen when we got in there, was put a set of intermediates on the GAC Maverick, and as you can see, it's yeah, going to kind of catch us by surprise at first because it doesn't quite kick the rain in, or at least it didn't for me until lap 2. So going to be a bit of a struggling out lap, but again, we have a ton of horsepower in this car, 1200 brake horsepower to be precise, and yeah, at a top speed of 200 miles an hour at a track like this, you're going to make pretty short work of the AI. So even if you can't do it through the corners and you're running the wrong compound, yeah, it shouldn't be too bad for you. Again, it's nice to see an event making use of one of the newer cars, so we're going to work our way through the AI nice and easy before we get onto the kind of faster sections, and this is really where we're going to make up most of our time, especially in this early stage. As you can see, this car will absolutely scream at you with the turbos, and it will absolutely propel itself to over 200 miles per hour. The AI will literally stand no chance in a straight line. As you can see, they're going to be basically sitting ducks. So you're going to see these cars right here, the Viper, the Corvette and the GT40, yeah, they pretty much look like they're standing still as we launch ourselves to well over 200 miles per hour. But then out of the blue, the rain will come down. This is when it will most likely happen. At this point, we're in Inter's territory, but the rain did go on for quite a while as we begin to take the lead. As you can see, by the time we're at the tunnel, it's almost into full wet weather conditions. So at this point, the intermediates aren't going to be too much use as it begins to get even wetter, but again, at least it's kind of helping us a little bit. And with 1200 brake horsepower, it is tail happy. As you can see, we went to put the power down and yeah, made a right mess of it. We are going to get overtaken, however, we're going to quite easily get this lead back. As you can see, we're going to finally get the car going again, almost just being as careful as we can to get the power down as the rear end just kicks out constantly. But again, obviously the 1200 brake horsepower is going to kick in, as well as the turbos, and we're going to launch ourselves straight past the AI again. They do seem to be extremely slow here, by the way. As soon as that rain comes down, they pretty much crawl through the corners. So even if you feel like you're having a bad time, more than likely you will very easily take the win, as we're going to put it up the inside of the Corvette, and that is it. Pretty much job done. You're not going to see the AI for the rest of the race. Again, just keep yourself clean and you should very simply and easily take the win. So we're going to round the final corner. As you can see, the rain did stop. We did begin to get a dry line. We're almost going to lap some of the AI already within 5 laps. So yeah, it just shows how super simple this event is, and that is it. Job done. First place in the GAC Maverick, which is actually a very surprisingly good car and a lot of fun to drive. So let's go and have a look how long this event took. and if we got the fastest lap. So we got the event done in around about 7 minutes with a few mistakes, so probably a lot slower than it realistically should have been. We did our fastest lap actually on lap 1, surprisingly, when it was drier than it was at any point during the race, which was a 1:16.952. Again, those 1200 brake horsepower in the rain, a little bit scary. So with a clean race bonus with this one, it's 97,500 credits. Super simple. You will get this one done in anywhere from, I'd probably say, about 6 to 7, maybe 8 minutes tops. Then let's move on to the final event, and to be honest, this one put an absolute smile on my face because it gave me an excuse to use the brand new Alfa Romeo, which is perhaps one of my favourite cars we've ever had to this game. As you can see, you can basically turn it into the classic touring car look, and that's exactly what I did. All I did really here was keep the power the same, put it a race exhaust on, which gives it a nice little side exit, a few little custom parts, and it pretty much looks the bomb. So again, this is a super simple event, probably the easiest of the bunch. You don't have to worry about tyres or pit stop. It's a typical 2-lap race at Monza. Obviously, if you are going to try and keep it in line with the recommended PP, which is actually around about 350 for this event, you should be taking just over 2 minutes or so to do a lap. Probably, you know, almost closer to 3 minutes than it is the 2-minute mark. So it isn't the fastest event in the world, but it is really fun, especially if you do use the new Alfa. I fully recommend using it. It is such a fun little car to use. I can definitely see myself getting some miles on this one. So as you can see, we're going to work our way through the field, continuing just to overtake pretty much everything. Like I said, I've not done any engine mods, just more performance ones, so brakes, tyres. Again, we're running sport softs here, which gives us plenty of grip just to kind of work our way through the pack. And then, yep, shock again, one of the new cars is leading the race, which is again another Giulia. So we're going to make short work of those as we go into the final corner, and then we are pretty much going to have a lap to ourselves at this point. And yeah, nice and simple. Not a hard event in all honesty, but again a very fun event just for an excuse to use the Alfa Romeo in a proper way. So there we go, we're making the move on the other Alfa. I'm assuming that one's absolutely bog standard, nothing done to it, and then we are going to obviously finish up the event coming out the final corner, and we're going to cross the line with around about a 16 to 17 second gap over P2. No problem at all. Nobody should realistically struggle with this one. Again, no fuel, no tyre deg. It's a typical kind of sprint race. So we got this one done in 5 minutes 6 seconds. We had a fastest lap on lap 2 of a 2 minutes 32.155. We are just a bit over the PP limit. Obviously running those kind of, you know, brake mods and stuff like that. So, you know, if you are going to use a bog standard car, expect it to be closer towards the 3-minute mark. So there we have it. First place for this one without the clean race bonus is going to be 45,000 credits. So not too much for this one, but I did actually enjoy my time with this event. So with that one being done, that is all 5 of the events covered with a quick little guide to each and every one of them. In all honesty, these are some pretty good events, actually much better than I expected. No, the payouts aren't absolutely incredible, but in terms of just having a fun time, I really can't complain. You know, getting to use all of the new cars felt very, very good. The Alfa Romeo is typically, in my opinion, the standout of the bunch just for how much of a cool little car that thing is. The Ford Maverick did exceed my expectations, and getting a chance to use that in wet weather was certainly a certain experience. And then obviously the GTR Nismo, to be quite honest, is probably the more typical car of the bunch and doesn't really kind of stand out apart from the other GTRs. Nice to see the Super Formulas continued again, that dynamic weather. Let me know if you got that. I honestly didn't get it. I'll probably go back later and see if I can get the dynamic to weather to actually work on that one. So there you go. Hope this guide helped you guys, and you know, kind of see what you expect for these events. I'll see you all later on. Have a great day. Peace.